My name is Dr. Syed Sayeed. I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon with a private practice in Manhasset, which is in the suburbs of New York City. In April into May of this year, I spent about 3 weeks doing a humanitarian trip in Gaza. So when it comes to a humanitarian trip, like the one I participated in and others that I participated in, you can go into these situations just going to do work, or you can go in there with a sense of hope. And that sense of hope for me is very different than the sense of hope that the people I'm taking care of will have. And what I feel about hope in relation to a humanitarian trip may evolve. From the beginning of the trip, it may be hope that I can help people. That may evolve into, can I change the entire situation for these people? And then, it can turn into, I hope that I can come back and do this again. And for the people that I'm treating, it's hope, especially in the situation where I was involved, it's hope that maybe the world still remembers us as human beings, and people will come back again. When I left there, people would say, please come back. We hope we see you in better circumstances. So hope can mean different things to a lot of people, but I think in general it has to do with this sense of really not knowing what the future holds, but trying to feel in your heart and think in a way that's positive. So having experienced what I experienced in Gaza and spending time with the people there, I can tell you that when it comes to human beings, I don't necessarily think there's anything that is truly resilient about human nature. I think when people have experiences, they never go back to what they were before the experience, especially with the people of Gaza and what they're going through on a regular basis in such a relentless way. You see that their experiences really create strain in them. But there is some level of resilience in these people in that they're adapting to the situation that they're in. So it's not necessarily that they're being attacked, or it's not necessarily that they're going through what they're going through and going back to where they were. They're trying to adapt within the situation that they're being placed in. So resilience from the point of view of a humanitarian aid worker is going to a situation where people are in this dire situation, but they're able to adapt to it in a way that they can try to carry out the resemblance of their life in whatever mechanism they can, whether it's modifying where they live, how they live, but they're continuing to live. They're not constantly in despair, but they're trying to make the best of the situation that they're in. Resilience only exists if it's tested, right? If you're not tested, you don't know how resilient you are. And again, I think people are seeing the stories coming out of there and saying, wow, this is incredible, this story of faith and resilience. But when you talk to the people there, they're really affected by what's going on, and they haven't had the time to process what they've been through. But you know for a fact that they're being strained and they're cracking, right? They're just trying to live. There are things that I hope for myself, and there are things that I hope for the world, and there are things that I hope for the people of Gaza. For myself, I hope that I can go back to Gaza. I hope that I can see the people that I met before, and I hope that I can bring some relief to them and relief to some of the people that I'll be able to treat in Gaza. for the people of Gaza, I hope that they are recognized by the world as human beings. I hope that their dreams of that come true and their prayers for that come true. And for the world, I hope the world doesn't go to sleep, because things are still happening to innocent human beings that need to stop. And I hope that at some point there's a rebuilding phase after this phase of destruction in Gaza, and people can return to the lives that they once had, much before the area became an occupied area. I think most of the people I came across during my time in Gaza exhibited forms of resilience. The people who stand out and that I can talk about are adults, and there's some children. Some stories and people that I met. One of them is Thamer. He was a young kid who was displaced from his home. His family was living in a tent outside of the European Gaza hospital, and they didn't have many of their belongings with them. But every morning where I came out of the area where I was sleeping, I would see Thamer outside waiting for me, and he would be attending school in a tent, and he would wait for me knowing what time I would come out, and then walk with me to the hospital. And he wouldn't have shoes. So despite being displaced, despite not having shoes, and despite being a child, he was still trying to carry on his childhood. So he was going to school, he was trying to learn, and then he was walking, regardless of if he had shoes or not, and always had a smile on his face. The last day I was at the European Gaza hospital, it was an unplanned exit. And I found out at night that I had to leave the next morning. And it just weighed on me that night that I had to find Tamer in the morning and give him my shoes. And it was really my slippers that he wanted, just something that he could cover his feet with. He would walk around, sometimes he'd use his father's slippers when his father wasn't using them. So the next morning I looked for him and I didn't find him. And to this day, it weighs on me that I didn't keep my promise to him. Because he would take my phone and he would look at my calendar and point to the date and say, oh, this is the date you're leaving and this is the date you're going to give me your shoes, right? And meanwhile, this is a young kid, and I'm a size 11, so my shoe is much bigger than his foot, but he just wanted something to put on his feet. And interestingly enough, on some of the social media posts that I see Tamer in the background, kind of running around, looking to see what's going on. And this was, the last post I saw with him was many weeks ago, but since then, the European Gaza hospital and the area around it was evacuated. The patients had to leave, the doctors had to leave, all the people who had found safety and refuge around the hospital were made to leave. So I don't know where he is now. And if I go back, I'm going to keep an extra pair of slippers for him. And God willing, if I cross paths with him, I can fulfill my promise to him. Volunteering is something where you're actually stepping outside of your regular comfort or your routine, and you're offering something to the people around you or to a cause around you. And again, it can really take on a lot of different meanings as you go through the process, as it did for me in volunteering in Gaza and in the volunteering that I do here locally. I think all the things that we talked about today, hope, resilience, volunteering, I think it's all a component of my experience in the services that I provided in Gaza. And it was overall a very deep process. and involve all these things from different standpoints, especially on a personal level. And being able to volunteer in an active conflict zone where there's active artillery fire, there's bombs, it takes a lot. And I still probably haven't processed it. I still probably have not processed it fully. And there probably is a component of hope and resilience in living through that situation, even for a short period of time, knowing that there are people living through this day and night on a continuous basis. So I think resilience, hope are really a big component of volunteering as a whole.